are live. Hello, everybody. Wendy Conrad here, work culture developer, chief happiness officer certified, and founder of Your Happy Workplace. And today, I'm super excited, so excited that I went on live 60 seconds early because I couldn't wait. We are having Lesley George, who is the CEO of Mosaic Inc. She is a diversity speaker and coach, two-time best-selling author, and someone who I have come to know through my business. And today we are going to be talking about race in the workplace. So buckle up. It may get uncomfortable, but these are conversations that we need to be having. And not just race in the workplace, but how can we support each other and bring about real change as women collectively. Here comes Miss Lesley, and I'll have her tell you a little bit more about herself. Also, let's go live. Drum roll, please. Waiting for Mosaic Inc. Connecting. There she is. Hello, Miss Lesley. How are you? I'm so excited about today. I've told people a little bit about yourself, that you're the CEO of Mosaic Inc., diversity speaker and coach, and two-time best-selling author.
Yes, thank
Congratulations.
you. Thank you.
But
thank you.
What else do you want people to know about what you do and who you serve?
Awesome. So Wendy, first of all, thank you for having me on this platform. And I think we're going to have a very engaging conversation, right? Because here's the thing. I think some of these conversations people are afraid to have, but we need to have it because especially in the workplace and, your mantra is building that happy workplace. As we come together from different cultures, different backgrounds, speak different languages, and we can realize that we can live together, because if we can't do it at work, we're definitely not going to do it outside of work, right?
Yeah.
So we're at work 8 hours a day, so we need to start there. So just like Wendy said, I'm the CEO of Mosaic Inc., affectionately known as the Diversity Diva. And I'll tell you why that Diversity Diva is there. The Diva, the D-I-V-A, the D is I serve determined women who are inspiring, who are visionaries, and most of all, they show up authentically. And I believe that if you can't stand in your truth as your diversity, whether you speak a different language, whether you look different than somebody else, whether you come from a different place that you call home, whether you love somebody different than your neighbor, if you can't stand in that truth and be authentic in who you are, you really can't serve the people that you have been assigned to serve. So that's why the diva is in there for diversity diva. When I named the company, which is Mosaic Inc., you look at a mosaic tile, and it's a very visual. I'm very visual. You look at that mosaic tile. Mosaic tiles are made up of stones, glass, different things, right? Different textures, different materials, different sizes, different shapes. So all of that come together. And especially when that sun hits that tile, sometimes depends on what type you have, it just forms this amazing, beautiful thing that we can look at. So if I can leave something with everyone as a visual that are here today and may come back and watch the replay, just think about that. And I serve women, and nothing wrong with men, but primarily I serve women because I believe as women, throughout our lives, wherever we were born with a dream, 5, 6, 7 years old, you were born with a dream that was inside of you. And life sometimes can beat that down, right? I remember back in 1992 when I left the country where I'm from. I'm dual citizen. My father's from Mississippi. My mother's from the Caribbean. But one of the first things that my ex-boss said to me, you're going to leave Antigua? And trust me, I had a great job. I was a general manager of a hotel. I built the hotel, ran the hotel, did everything. I had a company car, company condo, had a great life, but I wanted something more. And do you know this man said to me? He says, why are you trying to leave? You'll never make it in America as a Black woman. That was fuel for me. So when I tell people about Mosaic Inc., I formed Mosaic Inc. back in 2018. but I am Mosaic Inc. You're
Yeah.
Mosaic Inc., right? So it's something that's deep down in our core. It just happens to be the name of a company as an illumination to gravitate women towards that. So thank you for allowing me to share that.
So many chills, and I love the mosaic visual because you
Yes.
and I talked about that a little bit the other day. Back in the day, it was always, oh, America's a melting pot.
Yeah, I know.
And we don't want to all assimilate and be
Right.
like each other. It should
Right.
look more like a mosaic.
Yes.
That's beautiful, where you can see the individual pieces, but as a whole, it makes this beautiful, amazing picture. So
It does.
thank you for all of that. So let's
Thank you.
get down and dirty here
Okay.
and get into
Okay.
it. So
All right.
I I feel like we're going to have so many more conversations because
Oh yeah.
I usually take notes for these and they're almost a page and I had like 2 pages of notes. We're
Oh
never going to
wow.
get to it all. But let's talk about the experience that a Black woman has in the workplace because it's different from the experience that somebody who looks like me would have. And I think that's an important thing to talk about because it starts to get people who look like me to think about Black women in their workplace and
Right.
what they might be going through and form that kind of empathy because
Right.
that's where it all needs to start from empathy. So tell me a little bit about what challenges Black women face in the workplace that you have experienced or that you hear from other
Oh,
women.
I can t- I can hear about some experiences, but here's the thing, right? So, earlier this year, a lot of us witnessed George Floyd. And to be honest with you, as a Black woman in America, that wasn't something new. But I think because of the pandemic where everyone had slowed down, and so now you had a chance to pay attention, only then I started to realize, oh my goodness, so Lesley, you've been doing a lot of code switching at work. You've been
Mm,
dealing with a lot of different microaggressions at work that you didn't even pay attention. Now, I knew that going to work was exhausting. I knew that. But sometimes you don't have the language and you just
mm,
think maybe it's you. So, here's some of the things, right? As a Black woman, and where I worked there for 13 years, and I was usually the only one in many different circles. At one time, I thought that was cool. I thought that, okay, that was okay. But when it goes on year 6, 7, 8,
mm.
okay, so what's going on here? Why are you the only Black person in these surroundings? The other thing is that as a Black woman, marginalized woman working in America, working in corporate, our main psychology is trying to make whether it's a white male or a white female feel comfortable around us. When you did the flyer for this live, I purposely chose a picture with this head wrap, and I purposely wore this today. And the reason why is very symbolic for me. Now, I've been wrapping my hair as long as I know myself. That's part of our culture. But it took me 11 years to feel comfortable where I worked before to wear this to
Mm,
work.
mm.
That type of processing that you have to deal with, can I wear this to work? Should I wear that to work? That type of processing that we have to deal with, you don't realize how exhausting that is.
Yeah.
When you go into a meeting, one of the biggest things you're processing, okay, where should I sit? All right, when they say something that sounds that you can add something to it, do you get real passionate about it? Because, I call it passion, but because I've been told to my face, like, why are you so angry? I'm like, what?
Mm.
Now, within a group of Black women, you will hear
Yeah.
volumes. I mean, and nobody thinks anything about it, right? But if we're somewhere in corporate or whatever, they're thinking that we're angry. We're not angry. We're just very expressive, right? So you have to think about all those things. You have to think about, okay, how am I going to sit? How's my tone? So sometimes we get very monotone. Kamala Harris, what she did when at the vice presidential debate, Every black woman in America knew what she was doing. She
Mm-hmm.
kept she kept monotone. And if you've seen Kamala Harris prior to that, you know she can speak, she can get down and dirty. But here's the thing. She was being presented to America. She didn't want to be presented as an angry black woman. If she said the faces that she was doing, we all knew what those faces were, right? And those are things that we've been dealing with all our lives. But
Mm.
here's the thing. Prior to George Floyd, I never had a conversation about that with my 25-year-old daughter. So you
Mm.
know that instinctively you do these things,
Yeah.
but we don't have the language and we don't talk about it. So it's not like my mother told me I had to do these things. It's something that just happens because we know how we're perceived, and we want to make sure that you see that we can do the job. And no, we're not angry if we get excited. Microaggressions, you deal with language like, oh, slavery's done a long time ago. You guys just need to get over it. Those things will give you a headache, but you need to continue doing the work. And then when you get home, you explode. But you can't talk about that in the workplace. And I'll be
Yeah.
honest with you that George Floyd, yes, somebody lost their life, but I really believe that that incident where the world got to see, that has given fuel for people to see how other communities are being treated. And then here's the other thing. You as a white woman, we need more white women, right? Because without these conversations and discussing these things, you don't know what I go through on a regular basis from 8 to 5 when I get to work, right? All I know is what I'm dreading getting to work and I can't wait till 5 o'clock. And it has nothing to do with the work. It has to do with all the other things that's swirling that's around. So we will never get into certain rooms because we may be labeled whatever. But if you understand some of the things that we go through at work, the rooms that you can get into, you can advocate. So that's where back to Mosaic again, how we all come together. We've always understood that there's rooms that we're not going to get. We've always understood that. We're not trying to get into those rooms. All we're looking for is to be understood. And I
Mm.
think with the social injustices that's happening now, it's not new. It's been around, right? But everybody's able to see it. I believe that now is such an amazing time because we're getting those allies. When you had some of the the rallies that we had, you had rallies that were like almost 100% white because people were like, I cannot believe this. Because just because somebody's white, you don't know if they have a black person in their family, they have a black niece, we don't know, right? But it's just that these were all the things that we have been carrying for years and for
Mm.
years. And now people can say, okay, Lesley, what is it that I can do to help? Allies is what we're looking for.
Yes, and I have so much to say about everything you just said, and I want to start. Ah, so I find it so interesting that you, even as a black woman, didn't question the code switching and didn't question the
Mm-mm,
having to tone
mm-mm,
yourself down. You
mm-mm,
just did it instinctively
mm-hmm,
because that's how it's always
mm-hmm.
been. And so
Yes,
now that we are all taking a look at ourselves, I find that fascinating that now you're like, oh shit, you know,
exactly,
this is why I come home from work exhausting because
exactly.
for people who don't know what code switching is, talk a
Okay.
little bit about that and what it does to your psyche and why
Oh,
it is exhausting.
it's just it's so because okay, so black women spend a lot of money in their hair, so you can go to the salon on a Saturday, get your hair done or whatever, and then Monday morning you want it. Okay, so that hairstyle that I have, can I go to work like that? Whatever the style may be. So, in terms of code switching is when um you're not being your authentic self.
Mm,
You're not being your true self, right? I couldn't wrap my hair for 11 years because I did not think that it will be accepted, right? So it's just whoever you are, whatever your culture is, you believe that you have to switch to this other norm, I guess the norm, because of you will be judged. I think that's all it is. It's just being judged. You'll be judged.
Yeah.
And here's what, I was reading an article the other day, and here's what people don't realize about even about code switching is even when you're going for a job interview, right? So if you're going for a job interview as a black woman, you want to be looked at a certain way. So our hair in its natural state, and I was so glad that California finally passed the Crown Act, where
Mm.
you can go to work in your natural hair. Well, why do you think you see black women have weave and straighten their hair and all of that, right? Because they don't want to go to work with that natural afro because they don't want to be perceived a certain way. So even going and looking for a job, so you may have had your hair natural, cut low, whatever, but you don't know how the employer is going to see you. You don't know if that's something that's accepted. So you're going to change up your hair so that you could fit in and you will be considered based on your talent and not based on everything else that's going to come with it.
And just the
So
fact that that has to be
it
a
is
law
costly. Yes.
is like,
Yes. Yes.
yeah, and when I say we, I'm talking about white people and white women, don't have to think about things like that.
No. No.
And it doesn't
No.
even occur. And for you, it's so normalized.
Yes.
And so that's why we need to understand these things in each other. And you and I talked about this the other day, where I feel like coming together as women of all colors and cultures is going to be so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And there were great things that happened in this election, and there were some things sad to see in this election. And we need to get our shit together.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
apparent.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about how you feel we as white women can support women of color and black women in our workplaces. What are some things we can do?
I would say, just like anybody else, forget about the narrative that you may have heard growing up because a lot of things start from our household. A lot of things start from foundation. So I would say forget about that narrative and really start from a foundational base of we're two women, we're
Mm-hmm.
two sisters. Let's start there and then we can start to get to know one another. So we can, and it's about understanding. At the end of the day, all a human being wants is just that understanding. So whatever my race, religion, sexuality, whatever, that doesn't mean that you have to agree, but it just means that you just have to understand. And I think we've never gotten to the place of understanding. Whatever the narrative, I'm here to tell you, whatever the narrative is that you grew up with, anybody grew up with, all that is wrong because that's based out of fear. All of that is based out of fear. But now you come into a workplace and you're forced now to work with people that you may have heard XYZ about growing up. And a lot of
Mm.
women will tell you all that was bullshit and all that was a lie.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? It was a
Mm-hmm.
lie. So I would say start from a foundation of we are two sisters, we are two women, and we all want the same things. We want our families taken care of. We want to be loved. We all have those same basic needs. So let's start there. I think once we can start there with that type of foundation, we can have these type of conversations where, you know something, Wendy, you may be able to get to this place. And when you get to that place, you need to have my back. That's the next step. But our foundation first is that we see each other as sisters. Because that's who we
Ooh, we
are.
see each other. I
Yeah,
love
we
that.
see
I
each other
love
as
that.
sisters. That's I think that's the found because if you don't see me, you're not gonna get to understand me.
Yes.
And then there's
Yes.
no way you can help me.
Mm-hmm.
So we gotta see each other first.
Yes. And
Yeah.
I love that kind of overlaps with, and I talk about this a lot in my work, and there's several, layers to the onion about being able to show up as your authentic self at
That's so
work,
powerful.
and creating that environment for people, for
Mm-hmm.
all of the people that you work with, and
Mm-hmm.
not just that, but all of the people who may work with you in the future,
Right.
because there are businesses out there right now who don't have any people of color or women of color on their team. Does that mean they can't start making changes, or that
Right.
they shouldn't?
Right.
No, they should still
Right.
be having these conversations also, and asking the question, well, why
Why?
is that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
doing kind of some self-reflection, and like you said, thinking about all the messages we get
Mm-hmm.
growing up in America as a
Mm-hmm.
white person
Mm-hmm.
about anybody else who's different,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and dissecting that and thinking, well, is that true? Like, where does that come from? Instead of just, like you even said, as your experience as a Black woman, doing the code
Yeah.
switching without even questioning it.
Not that's just part of my life.
So we need to be thinking about things that we're doing and not
Mm-hmm.
questioning, and how we can do them better. Because I think it's all about, too, a sense of belonging in the workplace.
And
And yeah.
here's the other thing is that when I realized that it's something that I was doing and never thinking about it, and then now you're now giving that to another generation. Why? Because I
Mm.
saw my mother do it. Right? It wasn't a conversation, but it's what you see being done. So now we have those conversations in the household. We have those conversations that as a woman, you are a woman. And as a woman in the workplace, there's certain things you need to look for and even to stand up for yourself. Because, I will tell you that number one, if you don't have that confidence and you're constantly code switching, you're constantly dealing with all these messages,
Mm.
you're not going to have confidence for yourself to stand up. I need a raise.
Mm.
Um, I need my title switch. Those are not things that are on your mind. So let's go back to the workplace again, back to Black women being paid a lot less. Why? Because you're dealing with a whole lot of other shit that you're dealing with, and you don't have the confidence to go and ask for that raise. It is not that easy. So there's so many layers to it. You know what I mean? I mean, I experienced that at work when I worked for a city. There were people that came in after me, and I basically did everything. And that's another thing. You don't get them to do everything. I basically did everything.
Yeah.
But I just sat back and figured, well, somebody will see what you're doing, and they will, Lesley, they will tap you on the shoulder and they will say, Lesley, I think it's time for you to get a raise. Bullshit, that shit ain't happening.
Yeah, no.
They don't care. They
No.
don't care. They just trying to get their work done.
Yeah.
But I'm worried about, trying to do my work, trying to do whatever, and just sitting back and waiting for somebody to just, hi. No,
Yeah.
that does not happen. Experience that and totally understand that. So that would
Yeah.
be why we're also being paid a lot less.
And let's talk a little bit about that, because you and I
Okay.
touched on this on our conversation a couple of days ago about, I think one of the ways we can support each other as women of all colors is to talk about how much we make.
Yes.
And that, some people might not be on board with that because we're so ingrained that,
Mm-hmm.
ooh, no, no, you don't talk about how much you make.
Mm-hmm.
Shh.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we need to start talking about it,
Yeah.
especially other women in your workplace who are doing the same job.
Exactly.
We
Exactly.
need to, because the employer doesn't want you to have those conversations with
Mm-mm.
each other.
Mm-mm.
They're happy that you guys
Mm-hmm.
are like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that we are all not having that
Mm-hmm.
conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that would be like that's an actionable tip that
It is.
women can take. Start having those conversations with your teammates
Yeah.
about how much you're making.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, right? So my
Yeah.
25-year-old daughter, we were talking about something one time, and she says, "Yeah, because I have a degree, I get paid more." And some of them that came and didn't have a degree, I said, "How do you know how much they get paid?" She said, "Mommy, because I tell them, and they tell me." And I said, "We're not supposed to do that." She says, "Well, why not?" And I thought about it, and I said, "Well, why not?" And she says, "That is exactly why." That we don't know how much somebody else works for and makes us doing the same position. And from that, I said, well, hell, that makes a whole lot of sense. For all
Yeah.
these working years that I've been doing, I've been not talking about it.
I had the
And
same reaction too when I first heard about people doing that and having this conversation. I was like, no,
yeah,
you're supposed to
exactly,
keep that secret. No one's supposed to know what you make. And then I was like, wait a
exactly,
minute, who is that benefiting?
exactly, right? And just like my daughter said, so mommy, if they know how much you work for, what are they gonna do? Mm, there's nothing nobody can do, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that is a first actionable item that every woman can take, and we can start
Yeah.
having those discussions and breaking down those silos, because at the end of the day, see, I'm a person that I believe the work culture to me is the most important thing. Why? Because I'm spending 8 to 10 to whatever hours there. I'm among
Yes.
people that I didn't choose, but however, I know that we all have a common goal. So the workplace to me is the most important thing. And like you say, your happy workplace, if you don't feel happy, comfortable, whatever, you're not going to perform, right? Because you will go above and beyond for anybody that will make sure that your needs are taken care of. I've experienced that. One of my first employers um, was back in the 90s. He was a lawyer. We had dog days where we'd have ice cream in the middle of the week during summer. We would
Mm.
have, I mean, we had amazing. You would bring your child to work. Back then was you bring your child to work and be right next to you until when the baby started to get about 6 months. I mean, this is way before
Oh,
other people
wow.
talking. So from,
Revolutionary
oh
back
my
then.
gosh. So from that, I understand what it's like. And let me tell you something, Wendy. I would come into work on a Sunday and not get
Yeah.
paid and didn't feel anywhere about it. Why? Because Christmas, we would get Christmas bonuses, but guess when he would give it to us? He would give it to us Black Friday weekend so that we can make sure that we go out shopping. I
Mm.
did anything for that man. So I've learned a lot of things about your happy workplace just from him. If you can, he had people working for him for 25, 30 years. I
Yeah.
mean, and I thought that I would be at that job forever. So when you create, because at the end of the day, it's a family, because
Mm-hmm.
we all have one common goal to get whatever the work done, to service our customers, to bring in revenue. We all understand that. But here's the bullshit that I don't like. Oh, well, you're
Yeah.
lucky to have a job. Well, no bullshit. You lucky that I'm working for
Oh,
you. How about you're lucky I'm working for you?
yeah.
Because
Yeah.
my talents, nobody can work or do whatever it is like Leslie can. So
That's right.
that type of BS in the workplace is also a
Mm.
no-no. Don't tell me no bullshit about
Yeah.
you should be happy that you have a job. Oh, I've heard that shit so many times. Oh my
I've
God.
heard people tell me that they've experienced that, and I'm like,
Yes.
what?
Yes.
I'm like
Yes.
so ensconced over here and doing the work that I do, and I'm like, people are still saying that?
People say that. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no,
No.
no,
You
no,
don't.
no.
No. No.
That just
No.
like disintegrates the very fabric of, you know,
Exactly.
no,
Exactly. Yeah.
no,
That's not. No. No.
no. So
Yeah.
to kind of move us back to what we were talking about, how how do you think that diversity benefits a workplace?
Mm. Great question.
Yeah.
Like I said before, many people may not have the opportunity to be around people of different cultures, um, from speak different languages. That's where I feel that the workplace benefits that, because now you're going to be around those people. right? So you can learn. It's basically on the job training. So let's get back to your
Yeah.
happy workplace, right? So you have people of different cultures, from different countries or whatever. You have that. Now, what does the employer do with that talent that he has so that everyone is synergized? You have different things like International Day potluck, or you have things where you're celebrating all these different countries so that at the same time, where you have these, you don't just have these people in your workplace, you have these people in your workplace and you're celebrating them. What is that going to do
Ooh,
for their,
yes.
what is that going to do for their morale? You talk about a happy workplace, that's just going to boost
Yes.
morale. And then guess what? Everybody else will now feel that they're part of that because guess what? I realized I just learned something about somebody from Romania that I didn't know. I learned
Mm-hmm.
something from Brazil that I didn't know. So not only is it a benefit for the employer, it's a benefit for the employees, but at the end of the day, the employer wins because
Yeah.
you are creating a certain morale in your workplace. So it's a
Yes.
win-win. It's a
I
win-win.
love that. I
Yeah,
love
it's a
that.
win-win.
Tell us a little bit about your workshop event that you have
Oh,
coming up on Saturday, what
yes,
that's all
yes, yes,
about, and
yes,
how
yes,
people
yes.
can register for that.
Awesome,
As a, that'd
awesome.
be a good closer.
Yes, yes, that is, we're really, really excited about that because the name of that event is Women, Racial Equity, and Health. And here's the thing, right? So, with women of color, marginalized women, health really affects women totally differently because you need to remember a lot of the standards is based off of whites. So, if a lot of the standards are based off of white, I don't really fit in there.
Yeah.
Like they like to tell you, so you need to be a certain size. Well, most black women got some hips and some butt and some, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
there, so there's some things that we don't fit in there. And so a lot of times when it comes to our health, we have to push and push and push. One of the biggest
Mm,
examples I use is Serena Williams. Serena Williams is a
love her.
millionaire, right? She almost died during childbirth. Why?
Yeah.
They were not listening to her because a lot of times, a lot of doctors from way back in the day believe as a black woman, you don't feel pain.
Mm-hmm.
You don't feel good. You don't feel any pain. So there's so many different things that, from a health perspective, race intersects with health, and a lot of
Yes.
people don't realize that, right?
Yes.
One of the women that's going to be speaking, she's a nurse practitioner, has her own clinic, and she's been doing some amazing research, like, when it comes to breast cancer. So for breast cancer, for most women, if you have, like, I guess 2 screenings in a row, that's good. I guess you can skip and do 2 years. She says, Leslie, no, for black women, you need to go every year.
Mm,
You can't skip a year, right? How
yeah.
many black women know that? Right? So there's so many different things. So race and health just come into one another. And then the other thing we're going to talk about is, as a woman, how you're sexy is your confidence.
Oh.
If you don't feel sexy in your own skin, in your authentic skin, wherever you come from, you're not going to be able to ask that boss for that raise.
Mm.
And the sexy part has nothing to do with sex in the way that we say sexy, because as women, we are sexy. We have this aura about us, right? So to show up as your authentic self, show up big and bold in everywhere that you
Yes.
are, right? So as a woman, no matter where you come from, no matter what size you are, no matter how you look, you show up in your authentic self, just the fact that
Mm.
you're a woman. So well, that's really giving you a taste of what it is. So it's about bringing out your sexy and your confidence, how that's going to help you make more money in your career or your business or whatever, and the health, how the health intersects with race. So it's women,
Love
racial
it.
equity, and health. That's what we're going to be talking about on
And you've got the
Saturday.
link on
The
your
link,
Instagram,
yes,
right?
yes, yes. The
Okay,
link
good.
is www.themosaicinc.com/events. So yes. So looking forward
Awesome.
to everybody joining us.
Awesome. Well, I think this conversation was so great. I feel like there's so many layers to the onions to peel
Yes.
and that we can do this again probably
Yes.
forever.
Yes. We'll probably do this once a month. We can
And
do this
talk
once a
about
month.
all of the tentacles that, that this topic affects.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you so
Yes.
much, Lesley George, for joining me today, and all of you who joined us live and in the replay. Thank you. I am Wendy Conrad, Work Culture Developer, Certified Chief Happiness Officer, and founder of Your Happy Workplace. Lesley, thank you again.
Thank you
Sign up for
so
her
much.
workshop on Saturday.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.